Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the XWF podcast with your host, Chronic Chris Page, them no good bastards, Thunder Knuckles, Bobby Bourbon, and yes, if available, Bearded War Pig. And the action starts now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of the XWF podcast. Here today, Chris Page being joined late night for us, right, TK, on a Saturday to go over Leap of Faith, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. This is my daytime. You're the one going to struggle.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in rare form for sure. I can already hear it in my voice. It's been a day, but nothing would keep me from being able to chat with our guest today. We're going to go ahead and bring him in now. Actually, before we bring him in, I think we should update the masses on Bobby Bourbon. Bobby's not going to be with us tonight. He just got released from the hospital. Is that right, TK?
Yep, but he's doing just fine, and he wouldn't want you to worry because he is fine.
He is doing well. He's in good spirits, and he will be back with us. As soon as he can, as soon as he's feeling up to it. That being said, now we'll go ahead and get our guest in. This guy has been a staple in the Fed on and off for fucking ever. It's handled guys like Kyrian King. Everyone knows him as Lee Stone. Everyone knows him more so right now as the one and only Universal Champion, fresh off of Leap of Faith. Alias, welcome to the show, sir. So glad that you that we're able to make this happen.
I appreciate you guys having me. Appreciate you staying up late to accommodate me because it is quite literally daytime for me. But I'm here on a Sunday afternoon with a couple of beers and ready to have some fun.
Let's jump right into it. Before we get into Leap of Faith, man, I want to pick your brain about your career, man, because you've been at this for a hot minute, right? Like, when did you get started e-fetting?
I don't know if I really know when. It would probably be around 2000. So that's fucking a while back now. Gosh, shit, it would have been like 11 then. So I'm sure everyone can appreciate how terrible I would have been. Um, I was in and out of a few random feds. It probably felt like forever at the time, but really it would have been, a couple of months here, a couple of months there. So I don't really remember too many of them. I probably found my first real fed home around 2001. Was there for a couple of years until it closed down, and then stumbled on over to the XWF.
When you first found your way over to the XWF, which character did you come in as? Was this Lee Stone?
Yeah, it was. So Lee Stone had been a character that I had had in a couple of other feds there, quite generically. The surname Stone was straight lifted from The Rock, so it was just a copycat without being a copycat. And then so those very, very early Lee Stone promos before XWF, some of them would have been hot garbage. But yeah, by the time we got to the XWF, I'd played around with that character for a couple of years, and it had at least moved past a caricature at that stage.
Well, let's talk about your first run here, as far back as you can remember. I mean, obviously, you're going back, goddamn, 21 years. If it was 2000, 2001-ish. So I don't expect you to remember everything. Was there anything notable about that first run? Like, who was around and who were, kind of the top guys back then, if you can remember back?
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces. I came in late 2003, so October 2003 to be specific. And the only reason I remember that is because it was sitting in my signature as Lee Stone for a while as newcomer of the month. So that's a pat on the back. But by then, Steve Jason was really established as the top guy within the Fed, but he was not the champion, I don't think, when I came in. I came in around the time, I think, where Kitten may have lost the title to Jem Williams, I think. And Jem was really on the cusp of becoming as big as Steve Jason at that point. So I came in, fluffed around a little bit. Had a decent run in the Lord of the Ring 2003, which was the unlimited RPs. It was an over-the-top battle royal, but you can actually get back in the ring. So it just keeps going and going and going until only one person is left standing. Came third in that, which is pretty good for a newcomer. But I don't think anyone really remembers third unless you are third. And then I latched on to, there's a guy called John Page, who some people might know around the Twitter sphere. He's still active in the community, but not in the XWF. He wound up becoming Universal Champion. But he and Psycho Stevo created a stable called Fully Loaded. And that was kind of my ticket to having a first real story within the XWF. So that was late 2003, early 2004. 2004 gets a bit of a blur, to be honest. I would typically be around for the summer, my time, so that's winter, your time, and then take a break in the middle of the year when rugby training would start up again or something like that. And then come back again towards the end of the year. So 2004, it gets a bit blurry, but somewhere along the way there was a Heart title reign, which I think I took from Hall of Legends member Extreme Warrior, in what could have been his last match, but I don't quite remember that. I don't know who I lost that to. There's a Canadian title reign in there somewhere as well. But towards the end of 2004, 2005 is where things really started picking up for me. Another Canadian title reign, but then it was when I kind of came into contact with a guy called Christian Connolly, and we formed the Vigilantes.
That is that's a name from the past. Christian did a lot of work with me in the WGWF, and I think you may be well aware of that. But that guy's got some checkeredness with some of the history, but OOC, like, he's a legit awesome guy. So chat me up when you guys hooked up and joined forces together. Like, what was your trajectory, and what were you guys doing?
It started out as a Canadian title level feud. I think at one stage Raziel was involved there, but essentially it wound up being me beating on him a couple of times, but then us deciding that, hey, actually we've got something in terms of the way that our characters bounce off of each other. We never really talked that much OOC, but we just kind of gelled as characters and in a creative way. So we linked up, like, hey, why don't we make this a team? We did, and then through the next couple of months, we wound up also aligning with Alex Cutright and Chris Cage, forming the stable, the Vigilantes. And at that stage, we were kind of those young upstart heels who thought that they deserved a better place on the card than they were in. Through that time, we kind of started proving it, I guess. As Canadian champion, somehow Steve Jason wound up dropping down to contend for that title just because the top of the card was stacked. And I beat him as the champ. I beat Jim Williams as the champ. And that's when everything started clicking, I guess, from a story perspective. And that led into a uni title match against Dynamic Dynamite, which I lost and then took a break. Then when I came back, the Vigilantes were still going strong. The Bloodhounds had taken over. That's T Money and K Money in particular. And that kind of started what's probably the feud that least known is best remembered for, where I wound up finally getting that uni title and taking it from T Money.
T Money is another guy. Actually, you know what? You can go back to T Money, Jim Williams, K Money. All these are names that I'm very familiar with. I didn't get a chance to work with Jim Williams. I always wanted to, but I did get to do some stuff with T Money, which is, I mean, you guys people talk about, trash talk and who's the best of the best. T Money's up there. Like, that guy has a way and had a way of just smacking people without even trying, and made it look so effortlessly.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I would love it if he was around still, just because I was the last featherweight champ, and I would just love to hang that over his head forever, because I know it would just grind his gears.
I haven't talked with him in years, but I do know someone who may be able to get in contact. I'm gonna look him up, see if we can't get him looked up, see if we can get him come back for a minute. I don't know if
Yeah, we've
it'll
had a few
confirm something.
contacts, not me, but through someone else, just to see where he's at. Um, but I don't think anything's stuck yet. But I'm sure he would love the chance to come in and shut my mouth. So
I mean, he would be a blast to have back in the mix too. That would be great. Just to hear his name brought up it brought a smile to my face because some of the best stuff that I've done was against him, and it was I think we had two matches together and we split them 1-1.
did you ever get a chance to work with Jason Mudd?
Yes,
Or
and I remember Jason Mudd handled somebody else. I mean, it
that
was
was Jim Williams.
right. So I did get to work with Jason Mudd. I did not get to work with Jim Williams though. So I
Yeah,
worked
yeah.
with
So
the
you met the
handler, but
handler. Yeah.
just the character, right? The character would have been the money maker. Would have been with Jim, but I did get to work with him in that regard. Um, I think we only did like one match, but I don't think we ever did a singles. I think it was always. I think the one time we hooked up was like in a tag or something like that. But it was still fun to work with him as the Mud character. It was like a one shot deal. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
See, when you get into the mix and you snag the first uni, um, where was your memorable? Did you have a memorable feud around the belt, or did you have a favorite opponent that you were squaring off with at the time?
The common feud and the common opponent for me there was Boondock Saint. So
It's
Daniel Malcolm.
another blast from the past. Yeah.
Like we're talking 2005, 2006 here. Um, Malcolm finally got one over on me eventually, after I think 4 or 5 tries. But what happened there is, I went on a pretty big tear, to be honest. This is what I think Sent talked about when he was on. Um, I think it was 22, 23 matches in a row win streak. Um, and that kind of carried through till early 2006, and then the Fed just took a bit of a break. And then from there, right through really to 2009, everything's a little bit of a blur for me. It's I was in and out so often. Kind of became a bit of a flake, I think. I spent some time over in a Fed run by Star, so PDW, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Snagged their top title, but then wound up back in the XWF. I would just be, like I said, in and out, in and out. Come in, have a few wins, probably get myself in a position. I think I snagged the world title there sometime. Got the tag team titles with Connolly. Got the tag team titles with Raziel. And then, actually, I think we had a period there where you actually had to win a match to become a legend. So I managed to do that against Jim Williams. But yeah, I didn't have anything significant happening probably from 2000 and late 2006 right through to 2009, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
It was small things here and there, but I just never saw anything through.
When you say you had some breaks on and off with Lee Stone, who and obviously we've talked about some matches with Jim and a lot of legends from the past. Who is your favorite guy back then to work with as Lee Stone?
Probably is Jim Williams, actually. Um, I did enjoy working with Team Money as well, but we never got that repeat, I guess. Jem was really he was a good playoff for Lee Stone. Steve Jason's another one as well, where both Jem and Lee probably wound up almost like the Vegeta to Steve Jason's Goku, where we'd be kind of friends, but then would eventually just want to be like, no, fuck you, we want to be the best. So that was kind of a fun dynamic to play off, where it's not enemies, but it's like that friendly rivalry, I think.
Talk to me about Kerry and King.
Kieran King came in late 2009. So I'd actually pulled out the Alias character for a few matches in 2008. But Kieran King came in 2009 and went straight into the Xmas Extreme tournament. won the world title, wound up in an ongoing program with a guy called Davy Dunham, which I have no idea if that guy ever did anything else. I don't know where he went, but he was a talented guy. So stuck around there for a few months, and then on to a title versus title against Big Shank, where I left as the uni champ, he left as the world champ.
That Big Shank's another one, man. It's almost like
It's memory lane.
well, I mean, right? Like when you sit back and you think about all these people, it's at this point, it's almost like you have worked with every top tier talent that has been in the Fed since pretty much the inception. You just missed a year or maybe a year and a half since the debut of the Fed, right? So if you came in
No,
in 2000,
there's a few others. I came in 2003, so there's
oh,
kind of
okay,
this
right,
whole era, 1999 to 2001. It's like it's a whole era. So people like the brand, I never got to work. The brand was done after 2001. I think maybe 2000. He did like one match 2002, but he was done. So I never got that. I thought I would never get Jason Williams, and then he turned up out of fucking nowhere in 2010, and now we've got him here as Andre Dixon as well. It's like every 10 years he'll just turn up again. But there's people like, and I guess this will be the first on the counter for TK. There's people like Fuzz who I never got a chance to do anything with, even though we were in and out and around each other at the same time. There's people like yourself, Paige, people like Betsy Granger, who's around now, but was around back then too, and we just had never had anything to do with each other. So it's kind of cool now seeing that there's a whole heap of people, even ones that I do know, that I just never got a chance to do anything with, and now I do.
it's funny, man. It's like the evolution of the game, if you will. With I'm gonna get back to with Kyrian. So you came in, you got the uni. It was a singles run, or did you pick it up more than one time with Kyrian? Kyrian,
Just
excuse
just
me.
just the single run. Again, I think I dropped. I think Shank no showed against me actually, and then I think I wound up no showing eventually against Drake Komodo. Um, and then later on in the year, when I came back, linked up with his other character, Ace Vincent, and that's when I dropped into what I think was my favorite feud with Kieran, who was only around for a year, and that was with Jason Williams. So I think we've left it at one apiece. So I think I might have won a singles, and he won a triple threat with myself and Steve Jason in it. And then Fed kind of closed, and this is, I guess, is when the Carver era essentially began, or he who shall not be named, or whatever. um,
Oh,
the
let's just call him what he is. He's a fucking chode.
um, so Fed closed around that time. That wasn't related to him, but 2000, late 2010, won the Lord of the Ring Battle Royal with Kieran King, and that was really heading into myself and Jason getting that rubber match, and that was going to be kind of the big blow off to a story that we had been ticking over for a few months at that point. So I was really looking forward to that, but then we just never quite got that follow up.
Maybe, and I know that he's listening, and if he's not, I'll just text him and say, Jason needs to come back so that we can uh, get that rubber match. If we can get Jason back, would you bring Lee back for the one off and do it as Lee?
Lee Stone has. I've got one idea left in the tank for Lee Stone, but I've already got the opponent picked out for that. They already know who they are. I just don't have time to juggle that alongside the Alias stuff right now. So
No, no,
probably
no.
around the time when I drop the uni.
Not now, not now, not in the foreseeable future. But if we could line it up, you know what I mean? Like we could plan it out, right? Like
If it's Jay Zen, it'd be King that would get that. But I got no ideas for King
I
right
got.
now.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I understand. When you came back to the Fed in 2019, came back, or was it 2020?
2020. Yeah.
Sorry, I was years, man, and I'm stoned, and it's 12:30 in the morning. I'm doing the best I can. When you came back into the Fed 2020, you came in for the high stakes battle royal. Uh, is that what initially like sparked your interest to come back? Did you, or did you just kind of start looking at the boards again, or had you kind of been, lurking around and seeing what was going on, or what made you, decide to hit the site up again?
I had probably been lurking since XX, on and off. So sometimes I'd post, but infrequently. But yeah, I had probably been lurking since XX. Raven had hit me up. T Money and I were probably a cunt's hair away from being on that show, but we just, I think neither of us were really in a place where we could get the motivation to go. I thought I was done at that point. I thought I'd been done for 10 years, to be honest. Um, then, but I'd been lurking around the boards. COVID hit. We had and are in right now another lot of a really, really severe lockdown. So last year we were locked down for months, and by lockdown I mean strict. 4 reasons to leave your home, like to go get food, to exercise, things like that. But really, really strict lockdown conditions. So I was a bit bored. I'd had a few ideas floating around my head for kind of one-off stories that Lee Stone and Kieran King didn't really play into. So I was like, all right, well, Alias is kind of tailor-made for that. Like I said before, I'd had a few matches with him back in 2008 where I was just fucking around on a developmental brand for the most part. And then, so I figured, all right, well, this might be an opportunity to actually give it a crack. Let's see what there is. It was 3,000 words once a week, essentially. Thought, all right, well, that might be doable. And not only that, but the ongoing commitment over 5-6 weeks. I wound up only doing it for 5, but the match was 6 RP, 6 weeks. So that triggered a thought in me that, oh, maybe we'll get a bit of the back and forward going, and I can see if that part still is enjoyable. And it was. So yeah, I kind of just came in really just with the end of that run in sight, just high stakes. That's what all I was here for. Then by the time the last RP was posted, I was like, all right, no, I can stick around for a little bit longer. And so it's people like probably doesn't even realize it, but actually Thad Duke had a massive role in keeping me around just because of the fun that I had with the back and forth during that battle royal. So thank you, Thad.
Hmm. Thad's always fun to play with when you get him on the boards and you get him in character going back and forth. I remember when you came in for the battle royal. Now I didn't know that at that point you were you, because I was kind of oblivious to who's handled who, and kind of kept to myself and stayed to myself. Um, I made the statement to Theo. It may have been just to several other people after the battle royal, that had you got a sixth role play up, I feel the entire complexion of the top 4 changed drastically. I'm not in that equation. I think it would have came down to Thad, Corey, Witness, and you. And at that point, I don't know who would have placed where. When you showed for that battle royal, I was watching you, and I was like, "The fuck is this guy? And where did he come from?" So when you stuck around, I mean, within pay-per-view cycle, you pick up the Extreme Championship. I think you picked that up at Leap of Faith, or did you have it before Leap of Faith? Not Leap of Faith,
Snow Job?
Snow Job, correct.
Yeah, I picked it up from Reggie Estrada at Snowjob. And it's kind of you to say that it would have made the Final Four. I don't think it would have changed the outcome, to be honest. I think, especially in the first couple of RPs for high stakes, my trash talk was exactly that. It was trash. I wasn't in the habit of it anymore. I guess I wasn't as angry as maybe I used to be as a young dumb kid. But also I probably hadn't found the voice of the character at that stage. So I think it's kind of you to say that, but I remember for that battle royal, because I think when I came in, the only person who remembered was James Raven. And then throughout the course of the next few weeks, I let in people like Fuzz, let in people like Barney Green, just been like, hey, it's me, by the way. And so I remember saying to Fuzz, I think it was in the course of like a day or so, that I said, all right, Corey's got this. Oh, wait, no, Thad's got this. Oh, shit, no, I think Paige is finally going to do it. And just like rotated through who I thought was ahead. So that could have gone anyway for anybody, really, I think.
when you picked up the Extreme title, man, like it, the rest of your history up until this point is pretty much self-told, right? Like you got the four defenses in. Um, your fifth and finals is arguably at this point what I still consider to be match of the year right now. Was against King Doc at Mayday. Um, chat me up about that one. I know that we've talked about it on a previous podcast, but you and Doc at Mayday. I mean, that's a relentless main event that we got to all see play out, and it was an incredible cycle between the two of you.
Yeah, I think it was great that we got a chance to do it under Warfare rules, in that we got more back and forth. That's one of the strengths of Warfare. Yes, there's unlimited word count, and that can be taxing for some people. That's just not some people's game. But having that chance to go back and forward with each other as we did, I think really, really helped sell the story. I think we both brought it. I think we both told a good story for our characters, and I think it's kind of the story that it would play out like that. You know, there's an underdog here, and then here's the big bad almost in King Dark that is trying to stop the underdog. It's like a movie script almost. Um, so yeah, I know I'm really grateful that I managed to pull that off. I will say that I guess I'd been thinking about how I'm going to take on Doc probably since the moment that I saw him, because I knew his reputation. Like, all right, well, what would I do to take this guy down? And I guess I managed to execute it.
Execution, you did, and you got the 24/7 briefcase, which is kind of led us to leap of faith, right? Like and that's part of the reason why we're here for the podcast. And I think that talking about your career with the various characters up to Alias and getting to the cash in takes us right to where we need to be, and that's to cover the pay-per-view itself. For those listeners out there, TK will be joining us shortly. He's again 12:30 at night. He just got off work. He's getting himself together. He'll pop in shortly. So in the meantime, I hope you guys don't mind, but Alias and I are going to walk you through Leap of Faith. You ready to do this, sir?
Let's do it.
And we're going into Leap of Faith, man. Not one of a stellar pay-per-view, number one, from top to bottom, as we're about to go into and kind of deep dive a little bit. Taking place from, at this point, motherfucking moon, right? The cat's not quite out of the bag yet, so we're all under the impression that we're on the moon. Um, Starting things off, you've got the pre-show match. Not a whole lot to talk about here. I think it's a double no-show. Dean Rose, Liam Roberts ends in apparently a kidnapping. I don't know. There's not a whole lot I'm going to say about this one. Alias, is there anything you want to touch on with that?
I'd just like to say thank God for Little Feather for saving everyone with a new door. And then I'd also like to know whether or not Sarah Michelle Gellar is okay, because that was kind of left hanging there, and I'm really worried for her.
Well, I mean, you know, Sarah Michelle and Dean are probably going to be a-okay, I would imagine to say. Um, we rolled into a segment here with Betsy and Lakana. Alias, what's your take on this as we're seeing this interaction between the two of them?
It's it's a story that's been building for a while, and we're clearly not at the end of that yet. So it's a really interesting story to see unfold. They have been enemies on occasion, but they've also shown that they're kind of in sync in a way that neither of them really understand. So that's going to just be one to watch, I think.
This one has had a little slow burn to it, and I dig those. I think those are great little rivalries to have. So when you get to your payoff, it's going to be a lot more meaningful. So I do think there's a lot going on here. And there's some stuff that could be brewing. It takes us into the opening match of the pay-per-view. It's Osira, Themis, and Centurion. This was originally supposed to take place back at March Madness, but Osira went a little far in that tournament, right? Like it was a thing. This is a really well written match. It's well executed. Sin's gonna pick up the win here, but post match is a little interesting. We there's obviously a blast from Centurion's past that is coming back to exercise some revenge on something. Cent ends up getting laid out here. What's your take on the opening match of the pay per view? I mean, I thought this was a really great way to kick off this show.
It really was. This really, I think, was one of my favorite written matches on the entire show. I think just from an in-ring psychology standpoint, it did a hell of a job. It started off hot, which is great for the start of a card. Centurion gets the win, but I think this match really highlighted Osira throughout more than even Cent. So Cent got that kind of veteran, plucky sort of push from it, but Osira was gritty and largely dominating the offense. So I think it was a great way to get the way it was written was a great way to get both talents over from it. I do want to say that let me see if I've got this name right. The Fabula Nova Crystallis. That's the move that Cent won with. Like, I know that's a Final Fantasy reference, but fucking hell, Cent.
That's one
that links his
long.
catchphrase.
What's one long name for a finish?
It's ridiculous. But yeah, then we get into that post match. Now, Giovanni DeSantis, the God of Death, is that who we're talking about here? So this is
Yes.
a name that predates me. So that's how old this is.
I think that this goes back to one of Cent's first runs here. If I remember correctly, based off some conversations I've had with him throughout the week, I'm fairly positive that that's where this is a throwback to a feud that was years and years gone by. So interested to see where that's going to go and see who this guy is. If he was around, predates us, then either he's gonna bring some shit that we're not familiar with, or he's gonna shit the bed. I hope that he brings some shit that we're not familiar with. Personally, I'm interested to see where that goes. I think that while I shit on Cent all the time, I love the guy. Out of character, he's phenomenal. If you have opportunity to talk to him, you should, because he'll have you fucking laughing your ass off. In character, I shit on him all day, every day. He's one of these guys that talents, rather, I feel that they're at a status to where wins and losses doesn't really matter. It's if you can you make the person that you're working with look good in victory or defeat. And even though Osira did come out on the losing end here, I think her character looked great. And it's one of those situations where even in a loss, she came out looking really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have another segment following this, and this involves you and Thad. You, Thad, and Frankie kind of are involved here. So chat me up on this little segment.
It's just another little bit of character development. I think if we talk about that Etsy and Lycana thing dragging out for a little while and making people wait for the sort of payoff. Dad and I have been at this for 6 months now, and there is no payoff in sight. Neither of us are in a hurry to get there either. So it's just kind of character development that I think adds to the three-dimensional sort of world that we're kind of creating here. We don't have to have baby faces, and I use that term loosely for Alias, but we don't have to have them all get along, and it's just kind of painting complex interpersonal dynamics, I guess, if I want to overanalyze it. So it's just a bit of fun, really, to continue that going.
I think eventually, if and when that happens, that it's gonna be a good match. That the character Thad is like, you want to love him, but you hate him. He's just he plays the big baby face on TV, but he acts like a heel in his promos at times. But he just makes you want to just slap him around if you can. The next match on the card. Shit. Sorry, I went a little too far. This is the Fatal Four Way. I think there are three of the four no showed. Uh, Terry Borden, Hawk Hendricks, North Korean War Criminal, and Jordan Knoxville. And while this was obviously going Korean War Criminal's way, he put up some really good work for a return. I was really impressed. I voted for him for Roleplay of the Month. Uh, Chat me up on what you saw from the North Korean War Criminal, because that's who's picking up the win here.
Yeah, it was really good work. I think he cropped up out of nowhere again on the Extreme title board when I had that championship, and I remember hitting someone up in Discord, just being like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Because it seemed like he had some talent there, even just from the 24/7 pin. And I really liked that. He showed out. I think he might have been the only one to RP. I might have missed
Yeah,
one or two.
he was. I think he was the only one that showed.
Okay. So, I mean, in that sense, it was really cool for him to really be showcased throughout the match. And I think he was. He was stomping around in the middle of the match to parade to the national anthem of North Korea. And I love some of his move set as well. I wrote down some of the moves that stood out to me. I might have missed some, but we've got the Valorious Warriors attack your opponent while his back is turned. We've got the Honorable Heroes low blow to the nether regions. The Dedicated Citizen's thumb to the eye. And for a finisher, the North Korea nuclear arms test, which is just classic, I think. So I love that we got that really, really spotlighted within the match.
It's an interesting arsenal for sure.
Got a
What's
ton.
the interesting thing here too is, he's earned the shot now to earned his right to take a shot at the Extreme title, at the Heart title, or the TV title. So that's now in play for all of those champions, which should be a little interesting to say the very least, because you don't ever know what he's going to do, or who he may target. Could be one of those situations where this guy walks back into the Fed, and here within the next 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, he's got a championship around his waist.
Is there a time frame
It's
that he has to take that within? Do we get clarity on that?
I don't think so. I haven't. I don't know. I mean, that would be a Theo question, but Theo's ass is in the bed. He ain't here with us tonight. Little bastard. Uh, but I would imagine, like, since there was no time frame that was listed with the match listing, that would be, whenever he wants to use it, it would just have to be, uh, he would have to come out in character and name a time and place. Is the way I take it.
Sure.
One of the to me, the funniest matches on the card. Not the match itself. The match itself is great. The characters involved: Dick Powers and Dolly fucking Waters. How great was Dick's performance in this contest?
I love Dick. This match was great. Throughout, like Pip Collins, there was some obligatory innuendo, but I what I want to know is, I don't know who wrote this match, but again, I noted down some phrases that I want to read out of context, if that's okay. So
Mm-hmm.
you have
Sure.
at one point in that match, Dolly twists Dick. You have another point that Dolly hops on top of Dick. And then she wrenches Dick hard. Dick slaps the mat hard. Dolly's holding on to Dick's head. And she lands on top of Dick. And Dick rises up. Dick slithers and Dolly grabs Dick, and then Dick squirms. I want to know if all of this was intentional. If so, fucking bravo. If not, I fucking hope whoever gets the next Dick Powers match does do this shit intentionally and can top that, because I was reading that and just chuckling away to myself like an immature little teenager.
I'm fairly positive that those references are probably put in intentionally. I don't know who wrote the match personally, but we have a lot of fun with Dick Powers on the podcast, and he's just a fun character. And I think everyone had Dolly, kind of nailed to win this one. But real life happens, and it ends up, going to Big Dick here. Um, it's fun. The character is hilarious, and I thought that the fact that he got quote of the moment off of like the first paragraph of his trash talk against Dolly was just fucking hysterical. The butthole with no teeth line. I haven't heard it in so long. I laughed so hard. It was insane. Um, After this contest, we got a little character development piece with Lacana and Andre Dixon. I guess there's some flirting going on. Um, Not really sure what to make of that just yet, but I'm positive that something's going to pay off out of it. But it actually streamlines us into the double glass cage match for the Extreme Championship. Now, Alias, you were walking into this as the Extreme Champion, and you're taking on Lacana. There's a lot of history between the two of you, and that was one reason why I love this booking, was because while there were some loose ends that needed to be tied up in that little angle and that feud between Alias and the Left Hand, or once Bath was out of the equation, we never got that closure. And this was kind of like it was from a booking standpoint. If Alias goes over, we have our closure. But that's not what happened here. Chat me up. You and Lacana for the Extreme Championship.
I had a lot of fun with this. And you're right, it was a really logical, I think, booking piece. It was, I guess, arranged even prior to the Descentients winning the tag team title contendership. So that just kind of doubled Lycana's work for the night, and she wrote like hell to try and win both. I like the placing of this match too. I think Theo mentioned that before the pay-per-view, that it gives Lycana time to recover, but also something that I thought, and I kind of wish that I sold this a little bit more in my own promos in the build-up, was that it gives Alias a clean slate after the match to potentially use that briefcase. So he goes on first, and every champion has to follow, which means every champion was a target. And like I said, I wish that I really hit upon that a lot more, because ultimately we know that's what happened. I did use the briefcase. And I think it could have been a good piece of storytelling there. The match is designed to keep Marth out, essentially, because we know where one goes, the other follows.
Mhm.
I wrote this match, so I hope people enjoyed it. I don't usually write matches. In fact, it is one of my least favorite things about this game. But yeah, it ends with Alias getting burnt alive, and we have a new Extreme Champion. So, Lycana, congratulations. You rock. I'm proud of you, and do your thing with that belt, and hopefully you can knock off Paige on Anarchy.
It's one of those shocking moments, right? Like this, it's a huge win for Lacana, and it's I talk about it in my role plays about breaking that glass ceiling. This was a glass ceiling win for her, and I'm not gonna lie, OOC, when I saw this match booked, I'm gonna tell you where my mind went to. It wasn't Lacana and tag titles. It was Alias is gonna have recoup time. This motherfucker's coming after me. That was where my head went. Like I was asking Theo, "Hey man, can I like hide role plays on the boards? Like, is there any kind of way to counteract this attack, or if it comes?" And he's like, "You can try, but it's just gonna show up on the side scroll, last post. Like if I went in and commented on like a previous pay-per-view or something like that and put a role play in, he's like, it's just gonna
Yeah.
show up so people will see it." Um, but Lacana picks up a win here. Before we go any further, uh, we've just been joined by the one and only Bobby Bourbon. Bobby, what's going on, brother? How are you on this late evening, early
I'm
morning?
I'm beautiful, brother. I am out of hospital. I am home. I just put a needle in my belly to give myself some insulin. Living a healthy lifestyle. Petting my dog. Glad to be a part of the podcast. Hello, Alias. Thank you for letting me join you.
It's great to have you here, Bobby. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well.
Thank you, sir.
So Bobby, you're just coming in on this. We're cruising through Leap of Faith. Just so you know, TK stepped out, so he'll be back momentarily. You hang with us as long as you want to. We just kind of went through the Alias and Lacana match. I'm not sure how much of that you heard when you came in, but big win for her in this
Oh, yeah.
situation.
Huge win for Lycana. Um, you know, the woman's talented. She's a fine writer, great writer. I've gone up against her a couple of times now. I can definitely give you that affidavit. You're gonna have your hands full at Anarchy, sir. And it was a good effort on Alias's behalf too. But yeah, all the credit in the world to Lycana. And time to pat myself on the back because I called it. Thank you. No offense to it was a tight one to call, but I did call. I went on the limb and picked Lycana for that one.
You did. You did. She did. She picks up the big win. It'll take us into the internet championship match with Atara and John Black. I know that Vinny Lane wrote this one, and Vinny May also wrote that Dick Powers match that we were talking about, Alias. Um, we get to the end result on this one, a good little back and forth match, but Atara retains the internet championship. JB, a friend of the show, great human being. Um, at some point, you got to think that he's gonna put it together and he's gonna pick up one of these championships. And we know the internet championship's more of an angled belt anyway. But at some point, some gold's got to be coming his way, right?
Yeah, no doubt. This was a fun match. I think JB walked away with Addy's bra, so I don't know if that counts as a championship. It had my personal favorite referee with Marty in it as well. I have a question though for since we've got members of Bob Elite here on the podcast, why the fuck is Addy not Bob Elite?
Who said she
Oh,
wasn't?
yeah. Who said she wasn't?
Well, I'm pretty sure the list has been pretty clear for a while there that it was Bourbon,
Oh,
TK, Page, Fury, Dixon. But hey, if there's room for upward movement, Addy has absolutely deserved it.
if I OOC, if you the last role play I posted for Anarchy, Addie's been offered a seat at the table,
Well, there you go.
and
There you go.
it's up to her if she chooses to take it. Um, and the direction that I took, I don't mind sharing. Uh, CCP is the one who is like, and he's the one who's kind of saying who Bobby Lee is, right? Like in character wise. And I explained it in the piece to with Atara was, everybody wants to jump on the Bob bandwagon. Why wouldn't they, right? Like we're the hottest thing going right now. Uh, but who wants to jump on the wagon for the goal of the group versus a quick rub? Who's here today, gone tomorrow, versus who's here today, who's here to stay. Atara, in CCP's eyes, since March Madness, has shown that she, from a character perspective, she has the goods and she's here to stay. So thus, he's offered her the seat at the table.
That makes
Uh,
sense. That makes sense. And obviously, I haven't quite got to reading that one
yeah,
yet.
no, but that's why. Like it was all, development, if you will, and you just don't ever know. If something was to happen with Atara and she was gone tomorrow, you got to think about, an in character standpoint and open yourself up for attacks here and there. It's a game. It's the calculated side of it, right? That's how my mind works.
There you
But
go.
she,
We got a little bit of a
hey,
peek behind the curtain, didn't we?
yeah, yeah. Takes us into this was. You say? Go ahead.
Well, I think it goes without saying, in terms of being Bob Elite, in terms of the Twitter presence of Bob, Atara is tip top. And I think that also is a credit to why she won this internet championship match. But yeah, anytime that um, I feel like a lot of the Bob presence, TK's been doing a lot on Twitter lately, especially with his cross promotion. I've been jumping in because he's a partner, because I like being a doofus. But Atara's always there right along with us. So, yeah, definitely out of character, he's counted as Bob Lee. In character, kind of fluid right now, I guess. But as Chris said, But if you ask Bobby Bourbon in character, everybody's Bob.
Right.
So
Um, let's roll into this is what I kind of looked at as one of the most anticipated title matches on the card. Was Miss Fury and Ruby. They've been going back and forth on Anarchy for what seems like most of the year. And we're finally getting that one-on-one. It's a lumberjack match. Bobby, I'm gonna come to you first on this one. Uh, Rubes retaining over Miss Fury. Your thoughts here? I mean, the match itself is a really good read, and served justice to both the characters in my eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the match itself was great. It was well written. I think it was a strong representation of both characters. Um, and I think it also comes back down to, as much as I was rooting for Miss Fury and pulling for her, yeah, beating Ruby at 1,000 words for that Anarchy Championship. I've said it once. I think I'm going to say it uh, until Kingdom Come. I can't beat Ruby at 1,000 words. I don't think, and this is all the credit in the world to both of y'all. You're both phenomenal writers, and all the credit you take. None of us are going to beat that girl at 1,000 words. Not anytime soon, unless lightning strikes. So all the credit in the world to Ruby. Thank you. Love to see what happens next.
Alias, give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off what Bobby says. 1,000 words isn't my wheelhouse. I don't think I could take Ruby at 1,000 words either. This match was, I mean, I guess it was really about the stipulation a lot. There was a lot of lumberjacks involved, the BWOC squad. I would hesitate to even call them the B squad. So a lot of people, yeah, coming out, notably Big Preach. We're going to talk about Bob Elite. We're going to talk about Big Preach, aren't we?
Okay, you gotta love you some Big Preach, man.
I love me some Big Preach. Yeah, Vinnie Lane also coming out though, and we got the return of Solace Tatum within this as well. But I think the big story piece coming out of this is Ruby retains and Vinnie Lane. It kind of links into the segment that follows. I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but Fury
No,
and
go
Vinnie
ahead.
Lane booked for the next BWO show. Shit, I can't even fucking talk today.
It's a huge announcement, right, for the BWO show. It's big things are happening. I'm very interested to see what happens there. Only time will tell as soon as we get to that program. The title match trend continues. As Morbid Angel and Andre Dixon are hooking it up for the TV title. This is going to be taking place inside of a steel cage, pinfalls only. I wrote the match, so I know the flow of it. So, Alias, let me throw it over to you.
I like that this cage match was pinfalls only. It was a good way to kind of distinguish it from the double cage match that Alias and Lycana had earlier on. This was a match that really just jumped into big impact moves, Olympic slams, choke slams, power bombs, that sort of thing, to kind of show that explosive power, I think, of both characters. So that was really cool. And I guess Andre gets the win. Really, since linking up with Bob, he's found his footing, hasn't he? His trash talk game was, I thought it was pretty on point the moment that he stepped foot. And I remember talking to him just after, he and I go back with Kieran King and Jason Williams. Um, but then since latching on with Bob, it's really given him a story to sink his teeth into, and now I think he's getting the results to show for it. So, congratulations, Andre Dixon.
Bobby Bourbon.
Yeah, you got to give kudos to Andre Dixon. I could see the man holding on to that television title for as long as he wants it. Somebody's really gonna have to step up their game to come and try to take it back from him. And I think there's plenty of people out there willing to try to take it off of him. Just because of the fact that, one, he's Bob, and people don't like us. And two, he's that champion, and he's the flagship champion of Savage. So I think that this is going to be a really fun summer to see, just what he does with that title. I look forward to it, and I look forward to anybody that challenges him for it. I look forward to these matches.
Well, his next challenger is Corey Smith.
Yep, that's going to be a hot match.
Yeah, it's a circle back around rematch. This could be an opportunity for Dixon. We know how close he came that first time. This could be the opportunity for him to get a little revenge, if you will. I wrote that match that way, Alias. I appreciate you pointing that out. Like, they were, both of these guys on their bios, they're big guys, so they're not gonna pussyfoot around with trying to chain wrestle. They're just gonna go start. They're gonna fight, and ultimately that's what they got. I was thinking Wardlow and Jake Hager. It's kind of what I pictured when I had them in the ring, mentally as I was writing that match. So I hope it delivered. The infamous cage matches continue as we get the Heart Championship on the line in the Chamber of Horrors match. It's going to see Thad Duke and Ned Kay go at it. Really good writing here with the match and the story that's told during it. The build up to it over Warfare was pretty solid between both of these guys. But at the end of the day, here we're crowning a new Heart champion, and that man is Thaddeus Duke, Alias. What are your thoughts on this match and Thad is taking the Heart championship?
I mean, first of all, fuck that Duke. But when we get past that, cool concept with the match. Logistically, I don't know where all these fucking cage structures are being kept, but I'm here for it. It was a really nice kind of classic story being told within this one as well, and I really like that when I get to see it. So it was a bit of a juxtaposition at the start. With it kind of kicked off with a technical showcase, I guess, within a hardcore environment. But the moment those pods opened up and weapons came into the mix, they played a big part of it. At the end, we got the babyface comeback, taking us down to Thaddeus Duke, winning the Heart title, and I don't know if I'm correct about this, but I think that ticks off pretty much all of the main RP championships for him. I guess Anarchy is an exception, but he's had Uni, he's had Tag, he's had Heart, he's had TV, he's had Extreme. He's doing pretty well for himself right now.
Yeah, he's kind of calling himself the belt collector, which is it's what he's doing. He's taking these championships. It does wonders for the character. Bobby, let me get your thoughts, man. Chat me up on Thad and this Heart Championship match.
Well, this was a tough one to call. I think that both guys brought a lot to the table on the board. Now, the stipulations for the match, pretty unique, pretty interesting. Really, really cool stuff. And this is definitely it's one of those style matches to get the XWF. And just seeing like the countdown to new twists, new turns, new things in the match that are going to be happening every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes. Just made it a little bit more interesting. And it kept things on edge and it kept things fresh. So you knew that, you were going to see some crazier shit and then crazier shit. And it's just a story of escalation upon escalation. Is Ned going to retain despite all of this crazy shit happening? Is Thad going to capitalize with all the crazy shit happening? And it came down to that. Was Thad actually capitalized a lot of the crazy shit happening? But so did Ned. And Thad kind of edged him out here. I'm not saying he ran away with it, but he definitely edged him out. All the congratulations in the world to Thaddeus Duke. He's a brand new Heart champion, flagship champion. Really would like to plans in the future with him and the champ. I also want to see character movie. Yeah, that's my opinion. Great championship by both guys.
It will then take us to probably, when I saw the match on the card, when it was booked, I knew I was gonna like it. But when I saw the work that the match writer put in, I fell in love with this, and it slowly became one of my matches of the night. And that's Betsy Granger and Atara for the Shooting Star Championship. Sleeper match of the night. Like I said, who I'm not sure who wrote it, but they fucking delivered here. Atara coming out on top after a grueling back and forth match, uh, collecting her second belt. So now she's rocking the Internet Championship on Anarchy, and she is now the Shooting Star Champion. Alias, let me go over to you first here. When you think about this match was, I mean, A plus writing.
A plus plus. This was the best use, I think, on the show of the theme of the show. We had, I mean, it started off with Nerf guns, but we had lightsabers, and then we had the fucking airlock on the moon. And I'm still maintaining that we were on the moon all along. Um, and yeah, then Betsy getting sucked out into space, being saved by Excellence. So it was really, really a fun, chaotic match. I do know who wrote the match. They did a hell of a job.
Give them
And
credit. Who was it?
it was Betsy herself.
Oh, good job. Great work, Betsy.
This match was well hyped as well. We've had a few of these on these, the Fury Ruby match. I think the Alias Lycana match can be put into that as well. The Ned Thad match had a lot of story building up to it. So I think this pay-per-view really, really excelled in general, just with well hyped matches. Addie brought some of the most fire I've seen from her, since I came back in her RP. So congratulations to her. We had a lot of run-ins in this. We had an appearance by Osira Themis. We had an appearance by Dolly Waters. We had an appearance by Bobby Bourbon. We had an appearance by Alias, who somehow turned up despite the fact he's supposed to be burned alive. I'm sure that'll be fun to try and explain. Really, really fun, chaotic match.
You were one of the best burnt to a crisp guys to ever come back in, such a short period. But nonetheless, that's a little minor mishap. Bobby, man, let's talk about this. Atara coming out with two belts, making Bob really looking that much stronger.
Alias. Alias, you are so well renowned that on this show you were too. Quite literally. My character's involvement in the match was a request specifically to Betsy because I knew she was writing it because we'll just say the best laid plans of mice and men. A little bit more will be revealed at Throwback Anarchy and all that stuff. But yeah, it was just an exciting read. A lot of fun reading this match. A lot of fun just seeing, all of this stuff pulled out, with, Betsy and Atara and all the huge spots. It was just, again, brilliantly done, brilliantly well written match. Excellent effort from both on the way there. But yeah, we got to call her Addie two belts now because she's Addie two belts, that Internet Championship and that Shooting Star Championship. So way to go, Addie. Feather in your cap. Betsy, I'm pretty sure you're going to rebound soon.
Yeah, it doesn't take her long to rebalance, and we're going to get to that one in a minute. After this Betsy Atara match, we get a segment with Dolly and Michael Graves here. And fun fact, and this is just researching since the pay-per-view, I did not know that it's been like, I think it's 10 years or something to the pay-per-view of this feud between Dolly Waters and Michael Graves, or it may not. If it's not 10 years, there's some time frame. It could be like 5 years or 4 years or something like that. There's history here, and this is an interesting spot that sees them both kind of get knocked out. other than that, there's not a whole lot going on with it. I'm gonna open it up to you guys. Y'all want to comment on this, or are you okay with it as is?
I mean, we see Graves is no longer in Gilly's body. That's, I guess, a pretty significant development. I'm not up to date with the Anarchy RPs, so I haven't fully seen how this plays out, though I have a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain. But this is a fun little story that I think they're trying to tell, and I think it's playing out over the course of the over Anarchy and over some of the 24/7 boards as well.
Bobby, man.
I think that was well said by Alias. Not much more I can say about it. Good match, fun read. Um, yeah, or not the match, but the segment. Um, I don't want to talk too much about it just because of what's going on with the whole angle. Um, and I don't want to let some cats out of the bag. But yeah, this is really cool. What's being set up with Graves and Dolly right now is it's really cool. I'm really excited to see what moves forward and how people react.
Well, let's talk about this then. Like I said, I completely understand that. Let's because it takes us into the tag team title match. Glass tables, them no good bastards, and it's the Descendants, Marf and Lakana. Bobby, I'm gonna start with you because you actually I'm gonna start with Alias first, and then I'll go, and then I'll come to you. So we'll wrap it up with you. So Alias, chat me up. Them no good bastards successfully defending the belts once again against Marf and Lakana. Glass tables match with a very interesting fallout.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a very interesting match to see it like the Dixon Morbid Angel match earlier. It kind of went to big moves earlier on. I think that this match did a really great job of showing the teamwork of both. So the Dissentients were really in lockstep without really thinking, while them no good bastards were. They always had an eye out for where their partner was, especially Bobby to TK. I think he saved him at TK's expense sometimes. What I really liked about this match was how they managed to work in some false finishes. Again, I don't know who wrote this one, but they managed to work in some false finishes with people almost going through the table. And that's pretty tricky to do, especially in a written format, like let alone even watching an actual wrestling match, an actual tables match. It's hard to get those false finishes, which get people hooked. So I think this did a really good job of trying to get that in. And then we got EXP coming down to attack them no good bastards. And the first of is it 3 times that the bastards get laid out on the show? Poor guys, almost make me feel sorry for them.
Yep.
Depending on who you talk to, it couldn't happen to some nicer guys. Bobby, I know I said I would go next, but let me go ahead and go over to you with this. Chat me up here, man. Like, what are you thinking? Where's your head at with the successful defense, the post match? Obviously, them no good bastards are not going to take this laying down.
Well, all the credit in the world. Again, I just spoke about how good Lycana is, and she is. So's Marth. They're a hell of a team. Love playing against them. Love them both out of character too. They're a credit to the entire Fed. I think honestly, what Marv is doing with the 24/7 is leaps and bounds beyond anything I've ever seen done with any of the 24/7 fans. And again, I look forward to seeing what happens. But I'm not going to say the better team won, but me and TK are very proud of this victory because just considering the talent from the other side, and we take a lot of pride in being the tag champions out of character, just because of all the talent that we go up against. We haven't had an easy match yet as champion. Since our championship match, since our first defense, since this defense, and it's not getting any easier. But yeah, this was a hell of an effort on their behalf. Love reading their work, especially. I'm one of those guys that I get a kick out of reading someone else's work against me because it's like it's tailor made for me.
And just seeing, Marv and Lycana's material tailor made for what me and TK have been working on for months now was just a privilege. The match itself, again, just catching those false finishes, seeing that there's excitement going on with a stipulation that is difficult to write. Putting a false finish in a normal match is easy. You just put 1, 2, ellipses, kick out. If you want to be fancy with it, sometimes in the past when I have written matches, very moments, you can try to tease tap outs, which again, it's the same format and formula. Getting these false finishes teased in something like this, like a tables match, very, very, very tricky. Now, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here. I kind of picked the stipulation because TK was like, "Well, what's the stipulation for our match?" It's like glass tables. I went with that. One, from a historical standpoint, Bourbon's always excelled in those. Two, if Lycana did manage to win the Extreme Championship, she didn't. It means that she couldn't be pinned for it in the match. So it was just like putting a nice little. It was just putting something in there as a failsafe, so that we didn't have some weird, goofy double change of championships kind of thing. So there wouldn't be a wouldn't there be question about it. I thought it was that way. As for the beatdown that followed, EXP, you just wrote your own check. You can't cash it. And me and TK, we got you handled. Come the next show. That's in character. Out of character. Going to be a hell of a lot of fun running against both those guys. But before them, well, we got somebody else to deal with before them. The next, we'll get into that here shortly. Paige, what do you think of our efforts in the?
Well, this is just, piggybacking off of things that I've said on previous shows. And first and foremost, the quality of work that has gone into the tag team division since late last year has really been top notch. I can remember one of the first conversations Theo and I had about championships and what's important and what we would like to see down the line. Now keep in mind this was like a year or so ago, and it was just shooting the shit, just chatting. One of the things that he said was like he wanted to see the resurgence of the tag titles. They always have a special place to his heart. And knowing that where the division was like 2 years ago was pretty much non-existent, you had a handful of teams. Now, not to beat a dead horse here. Relentless last year was Cent and Ruby versus Cataclysm. High stakes, it was Cataclysm, Thad and Doc. Uh, Snow Job, it was the Bastards, the Descendants, and Continuum. March Madness, it was Continuum and the Bastards. Then you had the Bastards and Centurion and Ruby. Now you have the Bastards and the Descendants again. It's like this: the tag teams are that have been in the mix over the last 8 months have been really solid. While we're building up the new crop of teams, this match here just plays into that with just how strong the division can be if it chooses to be. And as we'll see later on in the show, like there's more names that could possibly be getting into the mix here, which is only make the division that much bigger to me. This is great stuff to see, uh, because it's taking titles and making them mean something, and making them so like I say that to say like whenever the Bastards do get knocked off, that win is going to mean so much more to whatever team does it, that it's almost going to be a secondary boost on top of having the championships themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really good shit to see. And you and TK need to be commended for the work that you've done. Lakana and Marv put up some really good stuff against you guys. So did Centurion and Ruby, and so has Continuum. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I do like the post match because it piggybacks off of the the gauntlet match. The what the fuck did we call it? Huh?
Tag team turmoil.
That's what we turmoil. Sorry
Yeah.
guys. 1:30 in the morning where I'm at. I'm trying. Uh
Same.
it's acting turmoil. It piggybacked off of that because they play second. So they would have the next shot like in character wise, and the fact that they didn't wait, like they made an impact. But actions have consequences, and consequences have repercussions. What we don't know are what are going to be the repercussions of these actions. And we know that once you get on the bastard's radar, that's usually a place you don't want to be.
Oh, trust me, Steve. I have an idea what the repercussions are going to be. So does TK. Um, we're no good bastards for a reason. No, we're not the nice guys. We're not necessarily bad guys, but you don't want us to be your bad guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, I get it. I get it. I mean, we're gonna see what happens here. I'm interested. I'm invested in it, and I definitely want to see where it goes and what happens when we get there. Um, this takes us then into one of the biggest leap of faith briefcase matches in the company's history. 10 people that opted in to try their hands here. Uh, Corey Smith,
Technically,
RL
not.
at technically 9. Edgar had some stuff happening.
No, no.
You had Corey.
Well, in character, technically 9, because what happened with, well, Demos and Charlie Nichols, the return of Charlie Nichols, which that was a phenomenal twist on the boards, my friend. That was something else. Like that was unreal. That was some feather in his cap for pulling that shit off. That's all I got to say.
Corey, I'm going to list them off as they're listed here. You had Corey, RL, Demos, Money Oswald, Jim Cadis, Corporate Chaos, Seal Frigda, Thrax, Rail Dixon, and Doc. All 10 of these guys are, well, 9 guys and 1 gal are in the mix here. He knew coming in that Corey was going to put up some phenomenal work. He's motivated. He's wanting to do some shit, and it's good to see this stuff happening. We knew that Jim Cadis was going to come into this thing, with something to prove. We knew that our Corporate Chaos was going to have something to prove. Thrax was kind of a virtual unknown. Doc came off the loss to Alias at Mayday. This was an opportunity for him to come back and show the world what he's capable of. I want to throw out some special credit here, and I'm doing this because I think he deserves it. Money Oswald, for this leap of faith match, he stepped his game up role playing wise, and
Massively.
he did a. I feel like I'm using the word phenomenal way too goddamn much, but he did a really, really good job with his writing for this match. And I just want to throw a special shout out to him. This was super, super entertaining. I'm going to throw the credit out there. Big D wrote this match, and I love, love how this thing flowed from beginning to end. End of the day, end result. Corey Smith wins the briefcase that has the contract in it, has his guaranteed title shot. But this was, we talked about going when coming into this match, and like Bobby, you talked on Demos and Charlie Nichols, his reemergence. It wasn't who won; it was what you made of the opportunity, right? Um, I think a good crop of these guys took the opportunity and made the most of it, which is the most beautiful thing to see. Period. But again, at the end of the day, Corey Smith is your winner. Bobby, let me come to you first on this hellacious goddamn leap of faith match.
Leap of faith matches are always a treat to read. They're a throwback to me to the old TNA feast or famine matches where you don't know what's in the case, and just reading the back and forth. There's always that excitement, that anticipation, like, oh, what's going to happen when they crack the next case open? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And the end is always something that's so sudden that it kind of catches you off guard. Now, in regards to the efforts given for this match from everybody that competed, it was just top notch. Um, it's kind of a shame we didn't see more from those who didn't. Now I understand why RL didn't. All the love to him, brother. Um, kind of wish Sil Fergita threw something out there. But top to bottom, you look at all the names in this match. Like Doc was throwing fire out there. He was writing good shit that I really had a good time reading. Cadis, his first time back, really throwing, daggers out there on the board was great to read. Daunting because it was very long, but it was great to read. I'm not complaining about the length. Something can be very long as long as it's entertaining. That's what works. But in the same vein, same thing with Corey. I think both of their smack talk was absolutely phenomenal in this match. Um, Chaos even he made his showing and his presence felt in his role plays. It was nice seeing him come back and compete. But yeah, ultimately it did come down to Corey winning that thing and pat myself on the back. Pretty sure I called that one too. Um, but yeah, it just leads to some more interesting stuff. We now have another new 24/7 briefcase holder in the Fed. Alias kind of might have to look out. Who knows? I look forward to seeing where this carries moving forward with the Universal Championship. Um, I kind of look forward to seeing what stories develop from the competitors in this match. I know that like Chaos is going for the Uni his next match, and that's going to be a good read too. But all in all, I think the match was phenomenal. I had a good time reading it, and it just again it read like something you could only see in the XWF, and that's what makes this such a hallmark for me.
Alias, man. Share your thoughts.
This match felt big. It felt like a big time match. We had a few characters there. I think Bobby touched upon it a little bit. We had Demos, we had Chaos, and Doc to a degree as well, where for each of them they were kind of looking at rebirth as kind of their theme, I guess. Even to an extent, Jim Cadis coming back in, and we know Demos's took the form of Thrax, which is a bit confusing when you actually read the match. But that aside, I think you can explain that. And then we had Corey Smith there, who was going to be throwing bombs as well. I agree that I would have loved to have seen Sil Frigida. Is that how he says last name? I think it would have been great to see him show in this. I hope we see him back soon because he was really looming as a threat for everybody if he got some legs under him. But this started off with a massive spam fest of finishes, which is great because that's not what this match is about. The action really picked up when they got into that 0G room. I counted 16, I think, briefcases that were opened. Do we want to run through what they were? I've got a list of them here.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
So Jim Cadis opened the first one. I was really excited to see Jim Cadis back. This is my first introduction to him, so it's great to have him back. Cadis got a pistol that just didn't work in 0G. Doc wound up with Karen Hunt's dildo with some vibrating rabbit ears and the word Mike on the side. I'm assuming that's a Mike Hunt reference. Thrax got cheese, just cheese from the moon's surface because the moon is made of cheese. Corey Smith got Thad Duke's anal beads, which Corey then pockets. I don't really know where, maybe in his own asshole. Probably just being a good friend though, and he'll probably give them back, surely. Corporate Chaos gets Mini Morbid in one of the briefcases, and then Money Oswald gets Muscle Midget, and that just adds a bit of chaos. Speaking of chaos, Corporate Chaos gets a Boeing bomb, so literally a briefcase full of space shit, actual shit. Demos gets nothing. And he gets an IOU, but I don't know what for. And he gets a doll of Demos. And he gets a set of Russian nesting dolls. and then he gets a W. So congratulations for getting back on the board there, Charlie. Cadus then gets, with the help of Drew Argyle, who turns up in a space suit, a note saying Drew says hi. Brax gets a golf club. Chaos gets some Justin Bieber tickets, and then we end with Corey getting the briefcase. So some very fun prizes in there.
D had a lot of fun with that, and that's what that was. It was insane. The only thing that I can say that I contributed to was after finding out that Mini Morbid was going to be in a case, that the muscle midget should be in a case as well, and get lawn darted at some point at somebody. It's, I mean, creatively, this was well put together. I think everyone who showed up for it looked like rock stars in this, and the story is what's going to happen coming out of it. How can the characters involved take this and shift it to their narrative and their perspective and make it work? The good thing is a lot of people got something out of it. Are they gonna parlay that and keep up with that, like the anal beads and like the dildo and there's just so much stuff that could be done with that, that I think would be hilarious, but we'll see. We get another. Let me just say this before we get to this segment. Can I just say how much I love Vinny Lane? That's all I'm gonna say. My favorite tag team on the roster: Dangerous Dave Mustang and Johnny Twisted Steel. They show up, man, and some shit here, to them no good bastards. So this would be the second time that the bastards have been attacked tonight. So Bobby, let me throw it to you, because it seems like you guys are the hot hand when it comes to trying to make examples out of.
Well, it's the old saying, when you're the fastest gun in the West, you're really in hell, and everyone's coming gunning for you. We opened our big mouths a couple months ago and said that we were the tag team division, that we were, the crossroads of the tag team division. You want to make a name yourself, you had to go through them no good bastards. So you have the disintegrators showing up, and they levy a beat down on me and old TK. And while we will get around to dealing with EXP and the members of Avalanche, the disintegrators are fucking doomed. They're gonna get crushed hard, like recyclables. I don't want to waste too much smack talk on them right now. It will be shown on the boards. TK and I, we're definitely going to be defending against these guys. They want a shot at the titles. They got it, and that's their loss. They don't know what shit they just got themselves into. I would throw it over to TK, and he would put a bullet point on that. That is just awesome, but he's not here right now to do that. So okay.
Well, he let me answer for TK. I think that I think you said about all that needs to be said about that. I think you covered it all.
Thank you.
It was. I think it's good character development again for the tag team division, uh, and then it will then take us to the main event of the evening. Excuse me. Let me backtrack. It'll take us to the scheduled main event of the evening. Uh, Robert Maine, Chris Page, Universal Championships on the line. This one's been building and building and building and building and building. 2019. We circle around. We've come full circle. The Universal Championships at stake. This is a Bob's only match. Bobby Bourbon is the guest ring announcer. We had Andre Dixon as the outside enforcer. Miss Fury was their timekeeper, and we had Thunder Knuckles as the referee itself. Um, no shocker here. I wrote this match. I Alias, I'm gonna come to you first, and then I'm gonna come to you, Bobby, because I'm gonna talk about everyone's role in this match and why they were put there. Because I felt like it was a really good match. I don't think that the role plays from my challenger lived up to it. Thanks, Rob. But we'll get there. The match itself, Alias. Let's talk about it. Robert Mann and Chris Page. What were your thoughts when you saw the match? You saw the booking. It's finally happening. What were your expectations of it? And did it live up to those expectations, or did it fall short?
So this match was booked via Robert winning the Battle Royal back at May Day, which means he earned this match. So I have a bit of I guess get a bit of a bug in my ass at times if people come back and expect to go straight into a title picture. But Robert Main earned this match. So I think there was, it goes without saying that there was so much build up to this match. The match itself, it was a story about Main needing to overcome Bob, and he wasn't able to do it. There's good heel shit throughout this whole thing. So, TK clearly selling where his allegiances were. And, even at the outset, he checks Robert for weapons, but not Page. He just does an ocular pat down on Page, so to speak. If anyone likes It's Always Sunny, they'll get that reference. And then even things like Bobby Bourbon, just announcing the rule changes throughout that clearly favor Chris Page, and ultimately the odds are stacked against Main here, and he's not able to overcome them. I know there's a lot to talk about in the post match, but I figure we'll leave it there, and then we'll talk about the post match a little bit afterwards, right?
Yep, Bobby Bourbon. Let's talk about the first piece of this main event.
Well, for starters, it's a relief for me to see that me and TK were well enough to come out right after that beat down by the Disintegrators and do what we needed to do for this match. Um, it's also, I think that the match, you did a great job writing it. It was very entertaining to read. Um, I really, really, really wish that it was a more heated competition on the boards. I think that could have been just fucking nuclear, and I think that a lot of people out there are just not sated. I think that there's still something out there that still needs to be tidied up, and hopefully there's a return match down the road. Um, Past that, though, I mean, it was a lot of. I'm glad that I was able to contribute a little bit. You asked me to write my parts, and I did, and I hope I was goofy enough and douchey enough to fulfill the role. Um, and yeah, again, it was just the deck was stacked against Maine the entire time. And, from an out of character standpoint, I was fucking rooting for Maine. Like, this guy had everything against him. If he came out ahead on this would have been nuclear. It would have been huge. And again, I think that it, everything was not left out on the table from either of y'all. And I look forward to seeing more in the future from both of y'all, between both of y'all. But ultimately, yeah, Page retains, and then
The match itself, man, I think I love the fact that you enhanced the entrances as far as the ring announcing portion of it, and that's why I wanted you to do that because you just have a way of you're just so goddamn funny. I mean, just there's just no getting around it. I think originally in my mind I had you pegged for the outside enforcer until I got to the match itself. I even think I may even announced it on a podcast that you were going to be the enforcer, and then as I was writing, I was like, no, he would be better suited here because this would be funny as shit. Uh, TK is the referee. Obviously, he cracked the main skull with a bat. So who better to be in the ring to call it one sided than the man who almost ended his life as on top of his career. And Miss Fury played her role as the timekeeper. Dixon did his stuff on the floor as the outside enforcer, and it was really built to put Roberts back against the wall, from an in character perspective. The in character Maine always talks about how he wanted Bob, and well, I'm gonna give you what you want, and we're gonna be too much for you to handle. which we were. And the reality of the situation is CCP defeats Robert Maine, which is all that Paige wanted in character for the character himself. He's been wanting that for 2 years, and he finally got it. What he was not expecting, much like everyone else, you get into the post match, and Bobby Lee hits the ring, and we're doing a number on Robert, and we get uh, Drew Archild and Jim Cadis. We don't just get Drew Archild and Jim. They've learned from their mistakes, and they're showing up with legacy. Betsy Granger, James Raven, Sean Warstein, coming to the aid of Apex, and even in the score and even in the sides, if you will, and actually taking the numbers game to the babyface side of the equation. And they proceed to really do a number on Bob. Everyone gets their just due, and until it comes down to CCP, and it's all bets are off there. I really love the spot where I took the right hands and went around the circle, because that was just like throwback 80s, all day every day. And finally, I ate a couple of finishers, and it led to finally, I don't know if everyone paid attention to this little piece of the main page story. Up until now, I had always eluded the dead man's hand, which is Robert's finish. The dead man's hand's finally hit. Uh, so let's talk about the beatdown portion of this first before we get to the final piece of this equation. Bobby, I want to come to you first, and then I want to come over to Alias from the outsider's perspective. Um, what about, as Addie named Ape Leg, showing up and giving Bob a little piece of their own medicine here?
Well, for starters, I think that after this beatdown, both Bourbon's, mine, and TK's health bars were in the negatives. This is just like the third one of the night that we just went through after a hellacious title defense. So yeah, we're doing our jobs as tag team champions fairly well. Um, really well written beatdown, really well written, like just storytelling and wrestling storytelling all in all what was going on there. Just to see, the baby faces show up and have a chance to shine and stand tall. Um, but again, I can't let the cat out of the bag. You got to read Throwback Anarchy to see where I'm going with this one. Because this was good for me. I was, out of character. This was awesome. In character, this was even better. And more will be revealed. Alias, what'd you think?
I think the tables have just turned. Obviously, Apex was kept out of the match by the stipulation. It was Bob only. But then I think we all knew that the moment that bell rung, we were going to see Arkyle and we were going to see Cadis turn up. But nobody, I think, was expecting Raven and Warstein. And that, to me, from that outsider's perspective, the tables have truly turned. The odds seem now to be really stacked against Bob. We have some really, really heavy hitters on that other side. So that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Paige has already hinted at the boards that there are, on the boards, I should say, that there are more coming on the Bob side of things. We're clearly not done. And I think we all saw that just by the finish of the match as well. Feet on the ropes rarely ever means the end of a feud. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And, we're at a stage where it's all out war.
I liked how it all came together, and how it kind of blended into this cash in, which I'll go on record now by saying, Alias, I asked you off air, how many messages did you get after this pay per view went up? Because I know how many I got, and it was. This is when you've done something right, and it was executed right. When you get the feedback behind the scenes that I got, and I'll share with you shortly, and I know that you got as well. This was probably one of the common denominators in both of the feedbacks is how well executed this cash in was, and how it was done. So this is your moment, and your ascension. Now, for those who are paying attention, when we were chatting earlier before we got into the Relentless show, this is your third character to win the Uni Championship with. So let's talk about that and talk about from your perspective what led you to doing the cash in. Uh, how long were you plotting and planning it, or was it a spur of the moment decision?
I guess to answer the last part first, the plan was to go as soon as possible. That was kind of always the plan. I tried to do a little bit of fake outs with the who I'm going to cash in on, but I don't really think anybody bought it. I think it was pretty clear just from the language that I'd used in other RPs prior that it was always going to be the uni title. Even if I never explicitly stated it, there was really strong hints. And just from the character's perspective, from where the character is at, and from some of the things that I had set up, that the moment that I got that briefcase, I was going to go as soon as I could because it's what the character kind of needed. He's not really going to sit around and wait to cash in. And honestly, I would have cashed in sooner if I didn't just have some OOC things that needed to take my attention. I probably would have done the cash in following the RLA Go match, to be honest. But yeah, I did. I think it was in the back of my mind that was going to be the third character. I think I'd mentioned it to a couple of people before that if it happens, that's the case. And then if I let my ego play in a little bit, I saw Corey Smith in that Leap of Faith match and was like, oh, okay, maybe he could get there first. So I don't know if that played too much into my decision, but I was aware of it. But the cash in was built throughout the night as well in kind of subtle ways. So Alias
Yes.
getting burnt alive. Then after several of the other matches, there's flames appearing on the stage and just trying to play it off as if it's a malfunction somehow. Because we're on the moon, we haven't built up we always have flame malfunctions on the moon. But yeah, then it was all designed to lead to the end, which I was in the back of my mind, I was still wondering, and I said this I think to Theo, that imagine if the leap of faith winner decides to cash in that night as well, and then I do all of this, and fucking someone takes it at the last minute. I thought it would have been hilarious, but alas, it was not to be.
It's funny, creative minds, because as you know, just spitballing with Theo, I had asked him going into this, has there ever been an opportunity where you had two briefcases that get cashed in simultaneously? And I thought that would have been a very unique and interesting spin as well. But we didn't get that. But what we did get, this is a crowning moment because the Alias character, came in November, had the high stakes battle royal, had a really good showing, and you've kind of just built yourself up to this, and it was, you know, to me, it felt like a big moment, for the Fed and for the pay per view, and not to say quote unquote the fans, because Bob has been dominant since the tail end of last year up to this pay per view. So it's kind of like Alias is the savior that has gotten the Universal Championship off of CCP. Bobby, let me come to you now. With this cash in and the title changing hands, what did you think when you saw it and the execution of it?
I think that the effort that Alias showed just to tease it all show long the way he did was just awesome. Um, and again, it was a hell of a show capper to see that happen. Um, Shock finish, but brilliant finish. It wasn't just shocking for shocking sake. It was shocking, but in a really fun way and a really exciting way, and it send the fans home happy. Babyface shows up, takes the belt off the dirtbag heel that was cheating all night. Um, yeah, and it just again, it it opens up more doors and more stories to be told. So again, all the credit in the world to Alias on this one, man. Good work. That was awesome. This was an epic card, top to bottom, and your efforts specifically were just—I don't want to say it was the icing on the cake. It was definitely something that, while everybody contributed to it, your contributions, without them, this show, rather than an A plus, would have just been an A. So
There was a lot of teases. I mean, leading into the show, Alias, you touched on them. I meant to, but goddamn, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Doing the best you can. Said it all night. You had a lot of teases and a lot of tease work going into this, which I don't know if anyone had ever, went that route before or to the degree that you did. And with the teases throughout the night, a well played situation. And if anyone's was gonna beat me, I'm glad it was you, because I know that the division's in good hands, and there are a lot of game players out there right now that could step up and give you some good fights. I do want to say this. With my run as the champion being over with, I hope that my whole goal was to do a throwback title run to the heyday of the XWF, and I think I accomplished that. 6 defenses out of 7 matches is nothing to shake your head at, and I just hope that I delivered. And it was an honor to be the Universal Champion for as long as I was. Now it's in better hands, and the sky is the limit here. After we get the cash in, after we've crowned the new champion, we get our announcement that the next pay per view is going to be War Games. But right as the show go off the air, there's some debauchery and some tomfoolery that we may not be on the moon here, and that's going to conclude the Leap of Faith pay per view. Alias, you're our guest. You're in the hot seat. Let's get your overall thoughts of the show from beginning to end, and where does this rank in your opinion of the pay per views of the year right now?
In my completely unbiased opinion, I think this is the best pay-per-view of the year so far. I think that it was stacked start to finish. I think that we had some really, really strong stories coming into this show, and now we have some really strong stories coming out of it as well. I maintain, and I intend to in my RPs, that we were still on the moon. I can get away with that even if we weren't, because Alias is not always all there. But I encourage everybody to do the same because that is a hell of a lot more fun.
Bobby Bourbon.
Well, of course we weren't on the moon. If James Raven won't come to the XWF, I don't see why he would ever come to the moon.
Shots fired. This was I love this pay per view. I loved how it all transitioned and everything flowed over it. I do think it's right up there with March Madness to me. It could have eclipsed it just a little bit. And all eyes now shift towards War Games. TK, welcome back to the show. I know you had some stuff going on, so why don't you give us a recap of where we are with our pay per view predictions?
Well, I would love to do that, but first, I want you guys to know I think you got the pay per view all covered, and that's all I have to say about that. But the pay per view predictions, we do have Ned in the race now, and in third place we have Ned K at 6. TK and Bobby Bourbon both tied at 21. And still in the lead, Chronic Chris Page at 23.
I was up by 1 before, so now I've went up 2. So that's interesting. We're going to see how that goes. War Games, it's not, the card's usually not as deep because you've got a lot of elimination matches. So room can be made up there for sure. It was a great show. Let's transition now into the questions that we've got for Alias. There was a lot of good ones that came in. The first one that we're clearly going to start off with is fuck, married, kill. CCP, Bobby Bourbon, Thunder Knuckles.
I guess from a character perspective, Alias has sometimes hinted that he's a fan of Bobby Bourbon's arms. Not the rest of him, keep the mask on, but the arms. So he's going to fuck Bobby Bourbon. In terms of marry, I guess we're going to look at who's got the most Xbox, don't we? So TK is going to get married, and Chris Page is getting that bullet in the head.
I'll take it. Before we transition into the questions from the handlers, one more that I've got for you. Your Mount Rushmore of role players. It can be active or inactive or both. It doesn't matter. Who you got on your Mount Rushmore?
I kind of feel like Mount Rushmore needs to be kind of early, and maybe that's because I was around then, so I got to see a bit of it. I think John Brown gets put on it, so he might not be the best role player in the world by what we've got nowadays, but he, as Fran Damage, was the first ever Universal Champion, so he's your George Washington, I guess. Steve Jason, I think, is a no-brainer to put on it. The brand as well. I saw a couple of his RPs, but just his legacy speaks for himself. And then we've already mentioned this guy on the pod a little bit earlier when I was recapping kind of my career, and I'm going to chuck Jem Williams up on there as well. His contributions at the same level as Steve Jason, where he was there all the time, and he was he was massive for the Fed at that time. So yeah, I think he deserves a bit of love. Just four on
Jim.
the Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah, man. Well, it's 5, so you got one more.
It's 5.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the fifth, maybe James Raven.
Not a bad selection. Not a bad list either. A lot of good throwback names on that list. Bobby and TK, we'll let you guys throw the questions out.
Okay. Well, these questions come to us from one of our favorite, most loyal listeners, Mr. Sean Warstein. Are we going to do the ding thing and continue that joke or
If
whatever?
you are, I've already said his name several times.
Oh, good. Have fun with that, TK. No? Okay. So the first question is, why bring back Alias instead of King or Stone?
Paige and I got a chance to talk about this a little bit before you managed to jump on. So I'll try to keep it a little bit brief. It's where the ideas were. So I had ideas for kind of single story RPs rather than a whole arc, I guess. And so that lent itself a lot more to the Alias character than to Kieran King or to Lee Stone. So when it came back to High Stakes, I had the story up until the end of High Stakes, and then by then I'm like, all right, well, I've actually got a story into a snow job, and actually the RPs that I put out for, or kind of the finish for some of them for Leap of Faith were actually in my head for snow job. So over time it's kind of extended, but it's just really where the ideas were, and the Lee Stone character in particular, because he's probably my more well-known one. His story wrapped up at X, so back in 2009, the 10-year anniversary, and I'm really, really happy. I've actually found the last Lee Stone RP I wrote, so I should probably post that actually. It's exclusively dialogue, which I thought was really innovative, I guess, but it really put a ribbon on everything from that character's perspective. So I don't have a lot that I want to take that character towards. I don't have a lot of direction for that character. I've got one idea. I've got a story. Lee Stone will have a match eventually, as long as I can stick at this and OOC shit doesn't come up. But yeah, it's mostly just where the ideas were.
All right, cool. What was the biggest adjustment for you coming back?
I take so much longer to write than I used to. We used to crank out 5,000 words in a night easy. That doesn't happen anymore. So that's the biggest thing, is that I've got to really try to plan a little bit better. And I get distracted a lot more now as well. I guess some of the other things, there's no Discord back then. I don't even know if there was a Twitter. Maybe it existed, but it certainly wasn't incorporated into Fetting. So, back when we had to walk 5 miles barefoot in the snow just to RP, um, all those things are new additions that I've had to get used to. And I used to check the board sometimes, be like, oh, where's the OOC community? And it turns out it's on Discord. So that's an adjustment.
Did you anticipate being where you're at right now when you came back?
I think Fuzz put this question up before Leap of Faith even, so I guess that takes more meaning now. And the short answer is not at all. I hoped I would, but I was convinced I was going to flake at any stage. The high stakes battle royal gave me a chance to dip my toes into the water and see if I actually wanted to keep doing this. But it wasn't until we really got to March Madness, and by then I'm a few defenses deep on the extreme title run. It was then when I actually started to think, okay, I'm not running out of gas. Other things aren't really getting in the way. I'm actually making time to do this. So it was only then that I thought, oh shit, okay, I can do this a lot more. So it's really not at all that I think I'd be able to get back. I thought I was just going to kind of be in and out, and that'd be that.
I'm going to just plow on forward. These are from Dolly. Who or what have been some of your favorite reads for turning?
Dolly's just wanted me to say them. Probably sounds a bit cliche, but looking at some of those writers, some of those names that became big names post 2010. So your Docs and Corys and Mains and things like that. Those are really things that I'm excited to be able to get to read, and that I'm really enjoying as well. I see why the success has been there for them. So they're probably easy answers, but they're the answers. And Jim Jimpson. I miss Jim Jimpson.
We all miss Jim Jimson, and Jim Jimson is a part of us. After Lycana and after Corey, who are you most looking forward to working with next?
Everyone. If I haven't faced you, I want to. If I have, I want to do it again. The thing that I'm not going to do, though, is I'm not going to get trapped into people calling me out. I'm not going to run out and just make challenges to people either. I want to try and take my time with things, because then I get to tell a story. And it might not be that I get to tell a story specifically with every person that I have a match with, and that hasn't been the case so far. But I'm really interested to work with everybody especially if I haven't worked with you before.
What is your favorite food? And we're talking non-human appendages.
I can't say cock.
Chris Page's face.
Pizza? I don't know. Maybe. Seems like a cop out, but yeah, pizza.
That's fair. We all love pizza. And then Dolly wants to know, why do you love them so much? Or
They're a bit of a dick, but they're all right.
Maybe they're wondering, why do you love me so much? I don't know.
Who is me? Is me
That's
me?
a good
I love me.
Cool. I love me too. I think it's a love triangle at this point.
Sounds hot.
All right, TK, I'll throw it to you.
Do you have a vision for where Alias is going to end up, or is it a constantly evolving process?
I'm not sure if an ending or end up is the right word for it. Kind of have about 4 potential endings for the character right now, with 2 of them being much more likely than the other 2, and the other 2 probably being able to be worked into the story earlier. I guess with that is that I do kind of see the Alias story or story arc as it is right now as being finite to a degree. So I can't see the character being, using a Centurion as an example where he's, still churning out material for the same character decades on. I don't see that with Alias right now, but that being said, it definitely evolves. So, never say never. I'm sure Centurion didn't think that he would be either. So yeah, I kind of have a few endings. I certainly have bullet points that I want to hit along the way. So I already have an idea of, for war games, what are some of the things I'm kind of doing it, pay-per-view cycle by pay-per-view cycle, that I have, some key story developments that I want to happen at each stage, and then the rest there is able to evolve and react, I guess, to what else is going on.
All right. Is there a particular writer you draw inspiration from?
I I don't think I'm actually particularly well read. So not specifically, but if I had to choose, there's a book called The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy Gentleman by Lawrence Stern. I think it was written in like the 1700s in the UK. Now, tonally, my stuff is vastly different from that. That's a comedy, satirical piece, and it pokes fun at leading thinkers of the time. Pokes fun at John Locke and all that sort of stuff. I don't remember most of the novel at this stage. What he did do is that he had frequent allusions to other people's work throughout, and went on a lot of digressions as well. And that is something that I've kind of picked up on and try to incorporate a little bit. So RP1 might not lead directly into RP2 all the time for Alias. It sometimes does, but there's a lot of times that I leave story threads dangling, even for several fortnightly cycles, and then pick them up again later. And that's kind of designed, but on purpose. In which case, it's I guess I'm showing how much I overthink things right now. But it's like a non-linear storytelling device, and I think some of that is inspired by Lawrence Stone's book there, and the fact that those allusions to other people's work. So he would pull from other people's stuff, and I actually do that a lot. Like I've literally lifted lines from someone who I'm not even facing work, their RP that week, put it in mine, and kind of reframed it in a different way, and it's designed to be like a little bit of a jab at them. I don't even know if it's always picked up on. Sometimes I'm 100% sure that there's been times that I've done that the person who I did it to has not even seen it, but I'm enjoying doing it. So it's a little bit of a jab at them, but also just kind of reframing stories in different ways and kind of reframing it into Alias's mind. So a little bit of that is inspired by the Lawrence Stern book, but he's definitely wittier than I, and it's a comedy piece. While Alias can be funny, I don't think you would call Alias a comedy book, a comedy story.
Wow. You think a lot.
Much.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's why you're the uni champ. What old school person would you bring back if you could, and why?
Sung his praises already on this podcast, Jim Williams. He is a guy that we don't talk about enough, but he is phenomenal, or was phenomenal, and I would hope that he would be again. I think he's doing Twitch stuff now, actually.
All right. The world wants to know. Corey and Alias finally smash. Who is the snugglier one?
Definitely Corey. I feel like if Alias finally gets what he wants, he'll probably realize he doesn't want it, and Corey would like wake up in the morning and see Alias getting changed and be like, "Oh, I have stuff to do. There's cab fare on the nightstand," or something like that.
That's fantastic.
This one's from Rel Dixon. What has been your favorite storyline, and why was it when Ash Quinn burned your hand?
I guess the whole left hand thing has been it's been 5 months of the last 6 months for Alias, so that probably is it's the big driving story for Alias to this date, and so that includes Ash's role there, because that and the mini feud that Reggie Estrada, fucking hell, I can't talk. They're probably the only feuds that I've really had, but I'm a big fan of kind of creating bigger storytelling pieces. So I'm really enjoying some of the stuff with Betsy Granger, with Corey Smith, that kind of three-dimensional world that we get to build. We get to play off each other's characters. That's something that I'm really enjoying as well. So not just the me versus you story. And then on that token as well, Thad Duke, where we've been building something for 6 months, where we can pull the string on that at any stage and have a ready-made story, but there's no need to do it immediately. So that whole shared universe thing is something that I'm really enjoying too in terms of favorite storylines.
Cool. All right. So, what? Go ahead. What helps you write your role plays? Like, would you say that you have like a writing process, and would you be willing to describe it?
I have a list of ideas for RPs. Most of them are kind of concepts that aren't really worked through, and they might just kind of wind up being metaphors that extend throughout. I kind of feel like I've got 3 different types of role plays that I try to do. There's kind of like reaction pieces, which might be like the first RP for a show, where it's just feeding off what's happened just before. Again, I'm showing how much I overthink some of this shit here. Then I've got kind of story pieces that kind of push the character story forward, either through backstory or kind of more action-based writing. And then there's those kind of high concept pieces, which might be like that choose your own adventure thing I did against Doc, or even just trying to play around with some visual elements in the RP. So something like just as simple as right-aligned text, which has become a big part of our Alias's character. So trying to make a visual component to writing. So I have that list of things that could be metaphors or extended motifs that I pluck out even from RP to RP and keep going forward, and sometimes take a whole thing and just rework it for a whole new story, and it structurally looks the same, but it's actually completely different content in it. So in terms of some of the content, that's some of the process, and that actually can take quite a lot of time, which goes into what actually helps me get writing is time and quiet. I don't do that very well. I sit in front of the TV most of the time and kind of multitask, and so that probably drags out how long things take. But if I want to be productive, if I want to sit down and just smash it out, no noise, no music, just sitting down and writing.
Well, what do you consider your greatest rivalry from Alias's time here?
I guess you can probably just go back to the favorite storyline thing. The left hand thing has been ongoing, even in its different iterations, going into more just against the dissentients. That's been the underlying drive for Alias now, and it's cool to be at a stage where I don't feel like that's over, especially given the way that the Lycana and Alias match ended. But there's an opportunity to branch out and try and look at a few other options now.
Well, that's I think that there's still more to come, you know. But I would have to agree. I think that your work with the left hands is actually. If we had to fast forward to the end of the year, who would all the champions be in your opinion? So it's December 31st, 2021. Who are your title holders?
Okay, Uni Alias, Extreme Alias, Heart Alias, Television Alias, Shooting Star Alias, or Aliasette, Tag Team Alias and Aliasette, Anarchy Alias, Internet. We'll leave that one with Addy because no one's beating Addy for that title.
All right. And well, yeah, Anarchy champion is probably going to be Ruby.
That's Alias too.
Oh, okay. What two handlers slash characters would you like to see work together in some capacity and what?
I think they had a tag team match again. They're on different sides months ago now, and I really liked the dynamic between Corey Smith and Lycana. I thought Lycana got to be like a real little bitch against Corey Smith's, young, cocky sort of self. So I think that was a really cool dynamic that I'd love to see play off more. Dick Powers and North Korean war criminal. I think would be fun as hell. And I think Marv asked that question. So I would actually really like. I don't know how this would happen because of the whole anarchy thing. It's not really Marv's vibe, but I think there could be some really good stuff between Marv and Ruby. Just they'd really play off each other well and make a good story.
Okay. This one's coming from Demos. Have you ever encountered Lacanian theory? I personally have not. I just did a quick Google of it. I'm actually less clear on what it is just by reading the front page. But have you ever encountered it?
Briefly, Demos knows that in the real world, I have ties into psychology. So he's looking at that sort of things. It's kind of like a reimagining of sorts of Sigmund Freud stuff, and Sigmund Freud has largely been discredited. So good to get it reimagined. In general, steer clear of psychoanalysis, though. So if Demos is interested in more of that, I would recommend finding something that's a bit more tangible and falsifiable, so that it doesn't limit practicality. Yeah, that's way too deep of a question. Fuck you, Demos.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ask a question for me. Could you describe Lacanian theory in simple enough English that my fatigued, somewhat undereducated ass could understand it?
No. I'm not familiar enough with it to even try and do that. I have surface level knowledge. That's all.
Okay.
Maybe not even that.
Atara had some questions, but I feel you really touched base on them. She does wish you very well and is a huge fan of your work.
Thank you.
What are your top three Nirvana songs?
Ooh. Lithium. Um, all apologies. And the version of "The Man Who Sold the World," so their Bowie cover there. I listened to that cover this morning actually, and it's still excellent. I still think it's better than Bowie did it. So yeah, there you go.
Uh, I'm a Bowie fan. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's an opinion. That's an opinion. How excited were you reading your cash in on page?
I guess I knew it was coming. Well, I thought I knew it was coming anyway. And so I think I said before that I said to Theo it'd be hilarious if someone else cashed in after me. But I was at work when it happened. The time zone things. It's real late for you guys now, but it's just getting to the end of what would be my work day if this is a weekday right now. So yeah, basically I came out of a meeting, I knew that the card was going up, straight into seeing that, and then at the same time there was live results being posted of a microfed that I've just joined, and so I got saw that, and then at the same time saw that I won my first match there with 750 word limit. So I was actually a little bit giddy, and then had to try and quell that to try and get back into meetings and regular work. So it's a pretty big day.
Nice. Well, the last question, there's a lot of lead into it, and it's from Dick Powers as well. I don't know. Just to cut to the chase, you're Freddy Krueger now. What would be your signature kill on a sleepy boy or girl? And who would be the dream warriors that finally take you out?
Gotta stay true to the character, right? So probably something hand related. I guess the victims would have to be banging, because aren't they always banging before they get killed? And then go from there and incapacitate them, starve and drug them so they're delirious and hungry enough that they'll eat anything, and present them with a human hand, which they then devour. But turns out it's their hand. I don't know. And then I guess I just rip their intestines out their asshole or something and hang them with it, just for funsies. I don't know. Uh, Dream Warriors, I guess. I don't know, probably Corey Smith surviving by tricking Alias to think that they're going to Plowtown, and then bam, friend zoned and sent back to Dreamland or something like that. I don't know. I haven't watched a Nightmare on Elm Street movie in ages.
Um, so this next question I have, I'm trying to find the source. All right, that's it. Have you ever seen the video Llamas with Hats?
Say that again.
Have you ever seen the video Llamas with Hats?
I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a link to the video for Llamas with Hats, and you'll see why I'm asking you that.
Okay.
It's a work friendly video. It's not like Mr. Hands, like, and don't look that up. Don't, well, you can look it up on Wikipedia. Don't look up the video. Um, but I'll send you the video that's actually okay and somewhat work appropriate. It's safe for work. But I think that covers all of our questions. TK, do you have any other questions?
I don't, but I do want to thank you for coming on to the show, Alias. We do appreciate it. Enough to stay up all night for you.
Exactly.
Well, I want to thank you guys for staying up so late.
Well, we do it all the time anyway, except for Paige. He's old.
Needs to get that beauty sleep.
But, Vinny, will you take us out?
Not a problem. Today, tomorrow, every day hereafter, till the end of time. Go fuck yourself, Ghost Tank.
Thanks for listening to the XWF podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the XWF YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at XWF1999. And don't forget to check us out at XWF99.com. Be sure to join us next time where the action never slows down.